All right. Speaking of grifts, Microsoft is going to put $10 billion or something into ChatGPT. Degenerate AI, as I'm calling it now, is the hottest thing in Silicon Valley.
The technology is incredible. I mean, you can question the business model maybe, but the technology is pretty...
Well, I mean, yeah. So what I'd say is $29 billion for a company that's losing $1 billion in Azure credits a year.
That's one way to look at it. That's also a naive way to look at a lot of other businesses that ended up being worth a lot down the road. I mean,
sure.
You can model out the future of a business like this and create a lot of really compelling big outcomes, you know?
Potentially, yeah. So Microsoft is close to investing $10 billion in OpenAI in a very convoluted transaction that people are trying to understand. It turns out that they might wind up owning 59% of OpenAI, but get 75% of the cash and profits back over time.
49%.
49%, yeah, of OpenAI. But they would get paid back the $10 billion over some amount of time. And this obviously includes Azure credits and ChatGPT, as everybody knows, this just incredible demonstration of what AI can do in terms of text-based creation of content and answering queries.
I would put deals into two categories. One is easy and straightforward, and then two is, cute by half or, the too hard bucket. This is clearly in that second category. But it doesn't mean
Why
that
is it in that category?
Well, it doesn't mean that it won't work. In our group chat with the rest of the guys, one person said there's a lot of complex law when you go from a nonprofit to a for-profit. There's lots of complexity in deal construction. The original investors have certain things that they want to see. There may or may not be, legal issues at play here that you encapsulated well in the last episode. I think there's a lot of stuff we don't know. So I think it's important to just give those folks the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, if you're asking me, it's in the too hard bucket for me to really take seriously. Now, that being said, it's not like I got shown the deal, so I can't comment. Here's what I will say. The first part of what Zach said, I think, is really important for entrepreneurs to internalize, which is where can we make money? The reality is that, well, let me just take a prediction. I think that Google will open source their models because the most important thing that Google can do is reinforce the value of search. And the best way to do that is to scorch the earth with these models, which is to make them widely available and as free as possible. That will cause Microsoft to have to catch up, and that will cause Facebook to have to really look in the mirror and decide whether they're going to cap the betting that they've made on AR, VR, and reallocate very aggressively to AI. I mentioned this I did this Lex Friedman podcast, but that should be what Facebook does. And the reason is, if Facebook and Google and Microsoft have roughly the same capability and the same model, there's an element of machine learning that I think is very important, which is called reinforcement learning. And specifically, it's reinforcement learning from human feedback, right? So these RLHF pipelines, these are the things that will make your stuff unique. So if you're a startup, you can build a reinforcement learning pipeline. How? You build a product that captures a bunch of usage. We talked about this before. That data set is unique to you as a company. You can feed that into these models, get back better answers, you can make money from it. Facebook has an enormous amount of reinforcement learning inside of Facebook. Every click, every comment, every like, every share. Twitter has that data set. Google inside of Gmail and search. Microsoft inside of Minecraft and Hotmail. So my point is, David's right. The huge companies, I think, will create the substrates. And I think they'll be forced to scorch the earth and give it away for free. And then on top of that is where you can make money. And I would just encourage entrepreneurs to think, where is my edge in creating a data set that I can use for reinforcement learning? That I think is interesting. That's kind of saying, I buy the ingredients from the supermarket, but then I can still construct a dish that's unique. And, the salt is there, the pepper is there, but how I use that will determine whether you like the thing or not. And I think that, that is the way that I think we need to start thinking about it. I don't have an investment in TensorFlow. We built
TensorFlow, the public source came out of Google, and then you invested in another company.
Well, we're building silicon for machine learning. That's different.
Right. But it's based on TensorFlow.
No. The founder of this company was the founder of TensorFlow.
Oh, got it. Okay.
No, sorry, not of TensorFlow, pardon me, of TPU, which was Google's internal silicon that they built to accelerate TensorFlow.
Right.
If that makes sense.
And so that's I don't mean to be cynical about the whole project or not. It's just the confounding part of this, of what is happening here. It reminds me, I don't know if you remember this.
The biggest opportunity here is for Facebook. I mean, they need to get in this conversation ASAP. I mean, to think that, like, look, PyTorch was like a pretty seminal piece of technology that a lot of folks in AI and machine learning were using for a long time. TensorFlow before that. And what's so funny about like Google and Facebook is they're a little bit kind of like, they're not really making that much progress. I mean, Facebook released this kind of like rando version of AlphaFold recently. It's not that good. I think these companies really need to get these products in the wild as soon as possible. It cannot be the case that you have to email people and get on some list. I mean, this is Google and Facebook, guys. Come on. Get going.
This is I think the big innovation of OpenAI, Sachs, to bring you in the conversation. They actually made an interface and let the public play with it to the tune of $3 million a day in cloud credits or costs. Which,
by the way, just on that, my son was telling me, he's like, "Hey, Dad, do you want me to tell you when the best time to use ChatGPT is?" And I'm like, "Huh?" He's like, "Yeah, my friends and I we've been using it so much. We know now when we can actually get resources."
Oh, wow.
And it's such an interesting thing where like a 13-year-old kid knows, when it's mostly compute intensive, that it's unusable and when to come back and use it. I was thinking about what you said last week, and I thought back to the music industry in the world of Napster. And what happened was there was a lot of musicians, I think Metallica being the most famous one, famously suing Napster because it was like, "Hey, listen, like, you're allowing people to take my content, which they would otherwise pay for. There's economic damage that I can measure." That legal argument was meaningful enough that ultimately Napster was shut down. Now, there were other versions of that folks created, including us at Winamp. We created a headless version of that. But if you translate that problem set here, is there a claim that Yelp can make in this example that they're losing money? That, if you were going through Google or if you were going through their app, there's the sponsored link revenue and the advertising revenue that they would have got that they wouldn't get from here. Now, that doesn't mean that ChatGPT can't figure that out, but it's those kinds of problems that are going to be a little thorny in these next few years that have to really get figured out.